and welcome to the Radical Marriage webinar. I'm David Steele. I am the founder of Relationship Coaching Institute, and we are excited to share with you today Radical Marriage, the book, the coaching program, the training program, and the movement, and what Radical Marriage is all about. And for me, Radical Marriage is the culmination of a 30-plus year career, and really all my life being obsessed and really passionate and living and breathing relationships, trying to figure them out, trying to have a good one for myself, trying to help clients do it. It's been a long, long journey to get here, and I'm excited to share with you kind of what the horizon looks like, what the other side of the mountain looks like, and really I never thought that I would get there or be able to describe that. And it's really, really cool. It's quite an accomplishment. And with me today is the fabulous Darlene Steele, who is the co-author of Radical Marriage. I could absolutely have not written this book all by myself without her. So welcome, Darlene.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I certainly couldn't have written this without you. I think this is just it's just been great that we've been able to collaborate this on this together with this.
Yeah. So I got to tell you that Darlene is not a presenter. She's not a front of the room presenter kind of person. So she definitely prefers for me to do the presenting. But while we got her here, Darlene, can you share what led you to co-write the Radical Marriage book?
Yeah, it really is funny because for most of my adult life, I dreamt of what a good marriage would be like. And, I knew the stuff that was we'd get along, we wouldn't fight, we'd enjoy each other's company and stuff like that. I understood that. But once we got married and we had this radical marriage together, I found that there was so much more to it than just, the stuff that I had always thought about. And, and I can't even describe it. I don't even have words to describe it. But the whole idea of how freeing it is to not have to worry about, your safety or your just being safe in a relationship. It's very freeing and it's really empowering. So I would love to be able to share that with other people. Of course, with you doing the talking because I stumble over my words.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. What is this radical marriage thing all about, and what do we mean by that? First, let me share with you that, in our opinion, a new paradigm of marriage is really, really needed. Now, marriage is an ancient institution. It's been around a long time. There's a lot of traditions and customs around it, and that is a blessing and a curse. A lot of people love tradition, and they love routine, and they love things to be predictable, but we also kind of need excitement and variety, and we're in a culture and a time where we want to forge our own path. We want to live our life our own way. We don't want to do it the way our parents did it or the way it was done in the past necessarily. So we definitely need a new paradigm of marriage that really embraces both, ideally. It honors the traditions and customs of the past, and it provides, freedom and flexibility for you to have the kind of radical marriage that you want. So the marriage rate is decreasing. It's at its lowest ever. Currently, it sits around 51%. That means 51% of adults in the U.S. anyway are getting married, and that is dramatically down from the past. The marriage rate in the past, one statistic I remember is that 85% of adults will marry at least once. I remember that one very clearly. I'm not really a numbers guy, so I'm not going to quote you a whole bunch of statistics, but it is really interesting to see these trends. And people are definitely waiting longer to be married. And the divorce rate's, the same. We're going to talk about that a bit. But the marriage rate is going down. Fewer people are getting married. The numbers clearly show that. And it's pretty shocking, but an average of 40% of adults, and again, this is in the U.S., all the numbers I quote are in the U.S., that's what I'm most familiar with, believe marriage is obsolete. And in reality, the numbers that I saw, 44% of adults under 30, 44%, that's getting really close to 50%. 44% of adults under 30 believe marriage is obsolete. And across all adults, this is, everybody over 18, 39% believe marriage is obsolete. So 40% of adults believe that marriage is obsolete. That is a huge number. That's close to 50% of our population. And so if you take a look at marriage today, and you see alternative lifestyles, and you see that people are cohabitating, and they're having relationships without getting married. You see they're having children without getting married. You see that divorce rate is high. Well, why get married? Why would we need to get married? There's very little upside in their opinion, and I can't really blame them. So the divorce rate has continued to be around 50%, 40-50%. You would think with fewer marriages there would be fewer divorces, but that hasn't happened. People tend to equate marriage with a loss of freedom, sacrificing excitement for security and a high risk of divorce. So if you equate getting married with, okay, you're going to give up your freedom, you're not going to have a fun, exciting life anymore, you will have security and companionship, that's cool, but you also have a high risk of divorce.
Isn't that funny, David, how I just equated radical marriage with freedom and more security? So radical marriage is actually kind of the answer to this.
Right. So we have a model of marriage that we want to share with you that provides freedom and security, that provides excitement and fun and commitment, and that minimizes or eliminates the risk of divorce. And we're going to show you how we do that. So there is a paradox of marriage. People view marriage as desirable. A lot of people do want to be married, even though they think it's obsolete. They think it's a good thing. They value it. And yet they believe it's old-fashioned and an anachronism and not really necessary or needed anymore. The futurists, the people that predict the future and what the future is going to be like, they predict that, marriage today will disappear. And if you look at the way things are today, you can't blame them for making that prediction. We don't think so. We think it is too ingrained in our DNA. We are hardwired for committed relationships, and that what needs to happen is an evolution of marriage, a new paradigm of marriage, not necessarily to throw marriage out because the way it is now is obsolete. So let's take a look at what I like to call beyond happily ever after. Now, happily ever after refers to the dream that people have when they are single and they want to find the love of their life. They want to live happily ever after. They want to love and be loved, and they want to be happy, and they want to be fulfilled, and they have an idea or a dream of what that would look like. And as a relationship coach for the past 15, 16 years, that's what I focused on doing, is helping singles find the love of their life and live happily ever after. And it wasn't until I met Darlene and we got together and we built a life together that I realized that, oh my gosh, when you achieve happily ever after, then what? This is whole new territory. It was whole new territory for me. And then I realized that, there's more. That life doesn't end and the journey doesn't end when you achieve a goal. You're on to the next stage. And so I call that stage beyond happily ever after. So happily ever after is what you want when you don't have a relationship or when you're in a relationship and you want it to be better. And then when you get it to the way you want it to be, then you're living happily ever after, and then you're ready for beyond happily ever after. And this, to me, is where it really, really gets exciting. And so Napoleon Hill said, what you can conceive and believe you can achieve. And that makes a lot of sense. If you can conceive it, you can see it, you know what it is you want, and you believe it can happen, you absolutely can make it happen. And that's what we help people do as coaches. Absolutely. However, there is a limit to that. And the limit is that you are limited by what you can currently conceive. So you actually, and this is what I learned after I got together with Darlene, is that you can go beyond what your idea of what your dream is of happily ever after. And you can go beyond what you can currently conceive. So that is exciting. That is really, really cool. But how do you do that? And that's what radical marriage is all about. We'll talk a bit more about that. So when you achieve your current dream of happily ever after, more possibilities are revealed. And this is what makes life exciting and adventurous. It's like Christmas. It's like you open up a present and you say, wow, this is wonderful, and you play with it, you experience it for a while, and then you realize, wow, there's more presents under the tree. And then you open up another present and say, wow, this is even better. Wow, I can't believe this. You know, and that's wouldn't it be cool if life was like Christmas and you know, it was opening up present after present. Well, it absolutely can be like that. However, it requires going outside your comfort zone. And here's what I learned when I became a coach. You know, as a therapist, I had a very different role. I was helping people solve problems, deal with their emotional pain, and you know, very different orientation from being a coach and helping people get into action and achieve their goals and experience success. But what happens is you cannot experience success unless you go outside your comfort zone. We have a comfort zone. There's this zone, and think of it as an upper limit and a lower limit. So the lower limit is like your pain threshold. If you go too close to your lower limit, you're going to experience pain and discomfort. Ouch! So you want to, you know, get out of there. Then you have like an upper limit, and your upper limit is actually too much happiness, too much excitement. Oh my gosh, I can't stand this. So you have to kind of bring it down a bit. It's going like, you know, it's like going to a loud party where a lot of people are having fun. And yeah, it might be fun, but it might be too loud for you. It might be too much fun for you. So we have to kind of tone it down. We have to turn down the volume a bit to stay within our comfort level. And so when we're in our comfort level, you know, and we're comfortable, we cannot experience success there. Because being happy and fulfilled and successful means going outside your comfort level, means pushing yourself. And so one of the things that I've learned that I'd like to propose is that if it's scary, you're doing it right. You know, if it's something you want to do and you're going for it and it's a little bit scary, you know, go for it. Don't hold back because it's scary. Too many of us are stuck because we are not willing to, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway. Here's a cool concept that I stumbled upon in this whole journey, which is what you see depends upon where you're standing and where you're looking. What you see depends upon where you're standing and where you're looking. So what does that mean? When I was a kid and I was in an unhappy home of my divorced parents, and parents divorced, and they were very unhappy individually and with each other, that's all I saw. And I didn't know what a good family life looked like. I didn't know what, you know, a happy couple looked like. And when I became a therapist, because I wanted to have a successful marriage and family for myself, and I wanted to help other people do that, and my goal was to help them become functional and have a good relationship, a good marriage, a good family, one that worked. And I was able to help them do that. But I couldn't help them go beyond that because I didn't know beyond that. I didn't see beyond that. I never had experience beyond that. So when you are in pain, the best you can see is, I want to get out of pain and I want everything to be okay. I want to feel better. I want to feel good. But when you are feeling good, then what? Then you can see more than that. I feel good now, and now I want to feel fantastic. I have a good life now. I want to have a great life. I have a good marriage now. I want to have an extraordinary marriage. And so what you see depends upon where you're standing and where you're looking. The cool part is that you have a choice where you stand. You have a choice where you look. So let's say you are in a very, very unhappy marriage. Well, you could look at, okay, I just want my marriage to be better. I just want to be okay. I just want to stop arguing. But you know what? You can actually raise the bar. You can go far beyond that. You can take a look at the Radical Marriage book and say, yeah, I want to do that. And you know what? You can. You can leap over okay and go great to fantastic. But, of course, it's hard to do that if you don't know what it looks like. And for a lot of us, that is kind of what limits us. Remember Napoleon Hill, if we can't conceive it, then how can we achieve it? And that's what the Radical Marriage book and paradigm is all about. It's a model of exactly how to have an extraordinary marriage beyond your wildest dreams that most of us don't experience and can't even see. And we don't even know anybody else that has anything near this. Well, our mission is to change that and help you have a radical marriage and to create a radical marriage movement to raise the bar for marriage so that instead of marriage being something that is equated with boredom and routine and high risk of divorce and giving up freedom, marriage becomes equated with excitement and adventure and fun and fulfillment. Because the reality is you can go much farther with a partner than you can on your own. I mean, doesn't that make sense? If you had a committed partner and you both were on the same page and you're working together, you can achieve so much more than you can on your own. And that's what radical marriage is all about. So, what is a radical marriage? Our definition of radical is just very, very simply, very, very different from the usual or traditional. And what that means is it's going to be your marriage your way. You are the pioneer of your life and your marriage. And nobody is going to have the kind of marriage that you have. It's going to be very different from everybody else. Now, in the old days, the value was to live your life like everybody else, to conform. Everybody follow the same rules, everybody have the same lifestyles, everybody have the same traditions and practices. And we are in a culture and a time where we don't value that anymore. We don't want that anymore. We want to forge our own path. And so radical marriage is about being married with everything that means, legally, emotionally, commitment, and having a life together, a marriage that's very, very, very different from everybody else, but it suits you perfectly. It's exactly what you want. It makes you very, very happy because it's totally the way you want it to be. So our question to you is, what would make you ecstatically, radically happy beyond your wildest dreams? Ask yourself that question. And what comes up for you is your radical marriage. And everybody has a different answer to that question. What's going to be radical for me, the kind of marriage that I really, really, really want, is going to be very different from the kind of marriage that you really, really want. And it's all okay. You can have your radical marriage and I can have my radical marriage. And as long as you are ecstatically, radically happy beyond your wildest dreams, that's what counts. So, there are 3 kinds of dreams that we'd like to propose to you. The first are dreams that you are aware of. These are things that you are consciously aware of. You know what they are. You want to go for it. It's sort of like the tip of the iceberg. You can see that tip. It looks huge, and you may or may not realize it, but there's a whole lot there underneath the surface. But this is the tip. This is what you can see, and this is what you're going for. And then there are dreams that you are unaware of. And this is all the stuff below the surface These are things that are outside of your awareness that tend to be revealed when you start accomplishing your existing dreams. So remember, once you achieve happily ever after, then you can finally see beyond happily ever after. And you can start uncovering and achieving those dreams that you are unaware of. And this is really where the gold is. You know, oh my gosh. You know, I never imagined I would have the kind of marriage that I have. Never. You know, my dream was, you know, we get along and we have a good time and we're good, you know, partners in life. Just, you know, there's so many gifts that Darlene gives me, that my relationship with Darlene gives me, that I could not have planned for or imagined. And that is really what I would like everyone to experience, that life and your relationship gives you gifts that you didn't even imagine, you know, you could have. And it's a blessing, and it's wonderful. So the dreams that you are unaware of are really, really juicy. And then the third kind of dream are dreams that evolve. And these are the things that, you know, nothing stays the same, and we change and evolve over time, and our dreams evolve as well. So what you wanted and what would make you happy and fulfilled 20 years ago is not the same that's going to make you happy and fulfilled today, and it's not the same that's going to make you happy and fulfilled, you know, 10 and 20 years from now. So dreams do evolve. And so this really makes life and a relationship an adventure, because you never know what's going to be around that bend, what's going to be over that hill, what the next horizon brings you. And it really, you know, some people, you know, they look at that with fear, and they need to know what to expect. But if you can embrace the unknown, it really makes your life exciting and an adventure, and allow your life and your dreams to evolve naturally, organically. Take that next step and the next step and the next step, and before you know it, you've arrived in this wonderful place that you couldn't have imagined before, better than if you had planned for it. So just, you know, let go and let life and your dreams evolve. So the key to living happily ever after is to recognize and accept that your life is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not achieving happily ever after and then that's it, and you want to kind of freeze it that way. You know, it's a journey, and it evolves continuously. And that can be scary and that can be uncomfortable, because we want routine and we want security. We want to know what to expect in order to stay in our comfort level. Remember, comfort level. But our life is a journey, not a destination. And if we embrace that, we can achieve far more than we can if we try to hold on to the way things are. So what is a radical marriage? A radical marriage requires continual effort by both partners. A radical marriage doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen by default. It's not an accident. There are lots of things in a marriage that can be accidental. You can meet the love of your life accidentally. You can accidentally get pregnant. You can decide on the spur of the moment to get married. But a radical marriage, and having the kind of life and lifestyle and relationship that would truly make you radically, ecstatically happy and live beyond happily ever after, requires conscious intention. You build that. You create that. It is not by accident at all. And what we've done is to put together a blueprint of exactly how to do that, and we will get into some of that today. So are you ready for a radical marriage? First, are you willing to embrace a team mindset? Team meaning you are partners. You are in this together. Now, that might sound glaringly obvious, but how many couples are finger pointing? It's your job. You need to make me happy. It's your fault I'm not happy. Or how many couples have one or both partners in the me zone? Me, me, me. What about my happiness? What about my needs? What are you going to do for me? I need this. I want that. And so a radical marriage is truly about setting aside your ego, setting aside, prioritizing you and what you want for the relationship, for your partner, for the team. And this can be very, very hard for people to do. This is what holds them back, not only from a radical marriage, but from a decent marriage, because honestly, they're just plain selfish, meaning self-centered. You know, I'm not meaning to make a judgment or to dismiss or discount them. It's just they're just too self-centered to be able to be a good teammate. So you must be willing to embrace a team mindset. We are in this together. You and your happiness and our relationship is as important, if not more important, than my own. Are you willing to take emotional risk? Because a radical marriage involves going deep, being completely authentic, being completely naked, if you want to, take that literally and figuratively. It's revealing all. It's allowing yourself to be fully who you are. It's experiencing your partner fully for who they are. And to do so requires taking emotional risk. It's going to be scary. There are things that you don't want to say. There are things that you don't want to share. And often in a relationship, in a marriage, we hold these things back. We think them. We don't share them or say them. So you think about it. Chances are you've been in a relationship and you have held something back. You have thought something but have not shared it. Okay, why? You were thinking maybe you would offend this person, or that they would judge you or reject you, or that it would hurt their feelings, or you were ashamed or embarrassed about it. Well, guess what? In a radical marriage, you do it anyway. You risk rejection and judgment, and a radical marriage is a safe place, so you're not going to be rejected or judged. So this is really, really scary for folks, but yes, you will take emotional risk. Are you willing to overcome resistance? Because it's scary, we tend to resist it. Because it's outside of our comfort zone, we tend to resist it. So are you willing to overcome resistance? Those of us that just like to be comfortable, we want to be able to sit on the couch and watch TV, drink our beer, go to bed, and get up the next day and do it all over again. Radical marriage isn't for those kinds of folks. A radical marriage is for you if you want to live life as your greatest adventure with your partner, and you're willing to overcome the natural resistance that's going to come up to doing that. Are you willing to experience a bit of fear? Remember, if it's scary, you're probably doing it right. Is your partner on board? It's very, very sad, but I've talked to a lot of folks that they love the idea of radical marriage. They really want a radical marriage for their relationship, but their partner is just not on board. So a radical marriage only works if both partners are on board, unfortunately. However, you can do a lot to get your partner on board. So radical marriage is for couples with a good relationship who strongly believe they are together for a reason, which is to experience life to the fullest through their relationship. That is exciting and inspirational to me. How about you? So what does a radical marriage look like? We identify 6 key elements of a radical marriage. First, there's radical commitment. Marriage is committed, and we'll talk a bit about what that looks like. Then, radical communication. Communication is key in any relationship, especially a marriage, and there are skills and strategies for what we call radical communication that can really take your relationship to the next level. Third is radical intimacy. Remember, we're talking about being naked, about revealing all, about not censoring anything, and that is how you achieve intimacy. You have a deep experience of your partner and yourself, and you are deeply connected because you are deeply intimate, because you share everything. your deepest thoughts and feelings and needs and issues and wants and fantasies and desires. And then radical romance. Romance is about passion. And without romance, then what do you got? You got a friendship, right? You want to be more than friends with the love of your life. You want to have a radical relationship, and that requires radical romance. That requires continually expressing your love and your adoration and keeping the passion alive and really, firing that passion on a frequent basis. So you have a passionate, romantic relationship. And then, of course, sex. Sex is an important part of what brings us together, and radical sex means that you are having the sexual relationship, the physical, emotional, spiritual connection sexually that you really, really want, that really bonds you, that makes, your relationship so unique and so close and connected. There's no way that there's any risk of an affair or a divorce, because you guys have a radical relationship, you practice radical romance, and you have radical sex, and you are living your life, to the fullest together. And sex is definitely part of that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the sixth element is radical living. So you're living your life together in a radical way. You are having the life together that you've always wanted, and you're doing that with the love of your life. And it's to both of you.
The thing is, you don't have to have identical dreams. It's not like everything has to fit perfectly together, but it is supporting each other to live your most fulfilling life. You're living the most fulfilling life together because of that. Wouldn't it be nice if your partner was supporting you to have your best life possible, that you could truly be happy with instead of holding you back? Instead of being the ball and chain, that your partner was supporting you to have the life that you really, really, really want. You were supporting them too, and you're doing that together. We'll talk more about that. So let's talk about radical commitment. Commitment is the glue that makes marriage work. There is a lot of research about marriage and commitment.
And it's just incredible, the power of commitment. One of the biggest problems with the way we get together in relationships today is that it lacks the attitude and fact of commitment. For example, the cohabitation rate. The cohabitation rate has increased by over 1,200% in the past 30 years. And so that's a definite social trend, which means it's normal nowadays for people to date, and then the very next move is they move in together. And when they move in together, are they committed for life? No. When they move in together, they think, okay, we have fun, let's get together and see how this goes. So they're testing. It's a testing mind's attitude. It's not commitment. And so the failure rate of cohabitation relationships is 80-85% because of that. There's no better example that I can think of that commitment is the glue that makes marriage work than the failure rate of cohabitation relationships which are not committed. So radical commitment requires 100% investment physically and emotionally in attitude and behavior with no exits. No exits meaning no physical exits. You're not going to leave in any way. You're not even leaving to avoid your partner. And you're not exiting emotionally. You're not thinking about what it'd be like to be without your partner or what it'd be like to be with somebody else. You have absolutely no exits. You are all in. And radical commitment means that you prioritize and are committed to your partner's happiness. You are committed to your partner's happiness. Now, the cool thing is, if you're in a radical marriage, guess what? Your partner is committed to your happiness. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't you like to be in a marriage, in a relationship where your partner is committed to your happiness? Yes. But you have to be committed to their happiness. It's a wonderful deal. Make the deal. Get out of the me, I gotta get what I need out of this deal. Commit to your partner's happiness, and when they commit to your happiness, you will get what you need out of the deal. That's what makes a radical relationship and a radical marriage. Radical commitment also means that you take 100% responsibility for the relationship and your outcomes. 100%. And you notice I'm not saying 50%. The problem with 50%, and I've seen this as a therapist over and over again. I'd be working with couples in trouble. They'd be in my office, and they'd be pointing fingers. Well, what about you? Well, what about you do? Well, you do this and you do that. Well, it's not me. So when in your mind you are responsible for 50%, then you're off the hook for the other 50%. And you get to focus on your partner and what they're doing for their 50%. And that doesn't tend to work as well. When you take 100% responsibility for the relationship and your outcomes, then you are accountable, you are responsible, you will make it happen, you will make it work because it's up to you. Well, the reality is it's not totally up to you. You do have a partner. But if your partner is also taking 100% responsibility for the relationship and their outcomes, that's when you have a powerful team. Both people are taking 100% responsibility. It's magical when that happens, rather than each person taking 50% responsibility. Well, what about your 50%? It's very, very powerful. So, in terms of operationalizing radical commitment, Darlene and I came up with 5 promises. And this is really the litmus test. Your reaction to these 5 promises will just tell us everything if you resonate with radical marriage, if you are able to have a radical marriage or not. And when we share these 5 promises with people, there are a lot of people that just flat out say, I can't do that. So let's see what you think. 5 promises of radical commitment. I promise to love you every day.
Well, that sounds pretty easy.
Well, how about when you're mad at your partner, or you don't agree with what your partner is doing, or you're annoyed at your partner? Are you still going to love them? How about if they do something that bugs you? How about if they do something that makes you angry? How about if your needs aren't being met? Are you going to still love them? There's too many relationships where the love is conditional. The love goes away if everything isn't lined up perfectly. Do you recognize that? You know what I'm talking about? So I promise to love you every day, meaning I promise to love you every day no matter what. If I disagree with you, if I'm mad at you, if you annoy me, I still love you. And you act like it. Promise number 2, I promise to choose you first. Now, we have a lot of things that demand our time. We have a lot of other people in our life, and we have our kids, and we have our work, and we have our family, our extended family. So there's a lot of pulls on our attention and our priority. However, if you're going to be a strong team, you're going to prioritize each other. You're going to choose each other first. The relationship, the partner comes first, 100% all the time. Now, the reality is that love and relationships are not either or. It's not black and white 100%. It's not like if you choose your partner first, then you're going to ignore your kids and they're going to die. Not at all. But when you prioritize your partner and being a team together, then the two of you can be a much powerful team in parenting your kids, and on and on and on. So what I found, especially as a therapist, is that when you're not able to prioritize your partner, your marriage and your relationship doesn't work. When you prioritize your partner, you're able to be a strong team because you're choosing each other first, then everything else works. I promise to choose you first. Promise number 3, I promise to take responsibility. We talked about 100%, but it's not just responsibility for the relationship, it's also responsibility for my own outcomes in the relationships, for what I need in the relationship and getting it met, for my own experience. Now, your experience is what happens inside your body in response to something. It's the thoughts that pop into your head, it's the physical sensations you have, it's how you experience the world. It's what happens inside you. It's unique to you. It is totally subjective to you. It is 100% all about you. So you need to take responsibility for that. Too often relationships don't work because somebody is blaming their experience on their partner. Make me laugh. You ever heard that? Oh, I love it when you make me laugh. Well, that might sound innocuous and like a cliche, but here's one person that's putting the responsibility for their experience on somebody else. So I promise to take responsibility. Promise number 4, I promise to say yes. This is probably my favorite one. I promise to say yes. This means that you are positively responsive to your partner all the time, 100% of the time. 100%. Not 99%, not only when you agree with them, not only when you want to, 100% of the time. And, you might be wondering, well, how do I do that if I don't agree with them? Or how do I do that if what they want I can't deliver or I don't want to do? Well, easy. You respond positively with what you can do. You respond positively with, what does work for you instead of what doesn't work for you. I promise to say yes. This is incredibly important for creating emotional safety in a relationship. If your partner anticipates that you might say no, or you might reject them, or you might judge them for having a request or a need or an issue, then they're going to hold back. If they know they're going to be positively received, then they will tell you their truth. Then they will ask for what they need. I promise to say yes, 100% of the time. I promise to be your hero. What this means is that you are going to support your partner. You are going to stand up for them no matter what. You are in their corner, even when the whole world seems against them, even when they're being criticized by other people, or even when you disagree with what they're doing. You are still going to support them. You're still going to stand up for them, and you are their hero, and your partner is your hero. We all need heroes. We all need our special person. We all need that person in our corner that's there for us 100% no matter what. And when you do that for others, for each other, then you will have a radical marriage. So these are the 5 promises of radical commitment. I promise to love you every day. I promise to choose you first. I promise to take responsibility. I promise to say yes. I promise to be your hero. So if you want the most extraordinary relationship possible, I suggest that you talk this over with your partner. I suggest that you talk about how you can make it work. I suggest you get the Radical Marriage book for guidelines and strategies on how you can make it work. So those are the 5 promises of radical commitment, and that's a bit about radical commitment. Let's talk a bit about radical communication. So communication is simple. Communication is simply exchanging information. You're talking back and forth, and you have to talk. And that is the vehicle for intimacy. That's the vehicle for getting things done and for being a team and just coexisting. So we're going to have to talk. And there is productive ways to do that, and there's ways that aren't, so productive. So an important part of radical communication is being able to identify issues and assert needs cleanly and positively. Now, issues are, in my opinion, unmet needs. So identify issues and assert needs are, 2 sides of the same coin. So you're going to have needs, you're going to have issues, meaning unmet needs, and you need to talk about it. You need to bring it up. But you need to bring it up cleanly and positively. You need to ask for what you want, make a request rather than complain, and you need to work with your partner on getting it met. And so if you can do that effectively, then you're, well along your way to radical communication. You need to tell your whole truth. And remember, often we censor ourselves. We don't want to be judged. We are afraid of rejection. We're afraid of hurting or offending our partner. But we need to tell our whole truth. That's part of radical communication. We need to accept differences. Now, when you communicate with somebody, if you accept who they are and you accept any differences you might have with them, then communication becomes easy and productive and even very pleasant and fun. If you have difficulty accepting differences, accepting who they are, accepting anything different than how you see the world, then you are risking conflict. And communication is not very fun. So radical communication is about having an attitude of acceptance. You embrace who your partner is 100%. You accept that they are different from you. It is okay that they are different from you. And you're not communicating to try to get them to change. You're communicating to just simply to connect and to get your needs met and to experience intimacy in your relationship with them. Another part of radical communication is owning your judgments. That you will have judgments, and what are judgments? Judgments are just your opinions about what's right or wrong or good or bad or the way things should be. And we all have them. However, they belong to us, right? It's not fact. I mean, fact is objective and measurable. You know, the sky is blue. Okay, it's observable, it's measurable. That's a fact. The sky is pretty. Well, that's a judgment. That's an opinion. You ask somebody else, hey, is the sky pretty today? They might say yes, might say no. You know, that's whatever their opinion is. So we all need to own our judgments, and we all need to accept differences when somebody else has different opinions or judgments than we do. Another part of radical communication is focusing on connection more than attachment. Now, we get attached to having our way. We get attached to certain outcomes. We want our partner to behave a certain way or to do a certain thing, or, we get attached to things all the time. And what's important in a radical marriage and in radical communication is that the connection is more important. Your partner and the connection with your partner is more important than having your way or having them agree with you or having things work out exactly the way you want. Focus on connection more than attachment. And, that can be hard to do, but we have many strategies for doing that in the chapter on radical communication. And in radical communication, be willing to listen and be positively responsive. Now, it's ineffective communication, and it drives you crazy when somebody's not really listening to you. Instead, they're thinking of their own response, and they want you to shut up because what they want to do is to be able to tell you what's on their mind as soon as they can. They're not interested in what you have to say. And that is the opposite of effective communication. So be willing to listen and be positively responsive. That is radical communication. That is necessary for a radical marriage. And again, we have very concrete strategies in exactly how to do this in radical marriage. So, next, radical intimacy. So, question for you, how high, far, and deep do you want to go in your relationship, in your intimacy, in your connection with your partner? Now, believe it or not, there are some people that don't want to go high, far, and deep at all. It's not comfortable for them. But there are others that want to just go as far as they can take it. And that is our audience. That is the people who we want to reach. That if you value relationships and marriage and intimacy and you enjoy connection and you'd like to have a deep as possible connection as you can with your partner, then radical intimacy is about what? It's about sharing your private thoughts, feelings, wants and needs, fears and secrets and fantasies and desires in a close emotional, physical, and spiritual relationship. So do you want that? Not everybody does, believe it or not. But if you want it, then, there's some very definite strategies we have for you in the Radical Marriage book. It requires trust and taking risk. And it requires emotional maturity. You can't do this when you're 10 years old or even 20 years old. It requires self-confidence and self-knowledge. It also requires emotional safety. You need to create emotional safety for your partner. You need to be able to create emotional safety for yourself, to go that deep and to take that amount of emotional risk in your relationship. And we have 10 strategies in the Radical Marriage book for creating radical intimacy. And I want to share just a couple with you. We don't have time for a lot. First, one of my favorite ones is strategy number 4. It's connection rituals. So a ritual is something you do on a habitual basis, and it's planned out, and you know when it's going to happen, and where it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. And a connection ritual is where you consciously and intentionally create a ritual that connects you to. And so, for example, for Darlene and I, it's as simple as, you know, after lunch sitting down and having coffee together. And then, you know, talking. And we talk about whatever's on our mind, and we check in, and, you know, so that's one of our connection rituals. And it's very innocuous. It's very normal. I bet a lot of people do it. But there's many, many more possible connection rituals that you can have. And the more you have and the more significant they are, the deeper you can go. So it's wonderful that you don't have to wait for them to happen by accident or to occur by habit or by default or just sort of because we do it this way. You can intentionally create connection rituals so that you experience intimacy and radical intimacy together. And so we cover strategies for how to do that. Strategy number 8, you know, one of the 10 strategies for creating radical intimacy. Actually, we've already talked about this, but it's just so important. It's positive response. It's, you know, how can you be intimate with somebody who's rejecting you or saying no to you in any way, shape, or form? So being positively responsive 100% is an important part of intimacy and radical intimacy. So there's just a couple of strategies, just to give you a little sample. There's 10 of them, and we have very, very concrete guidelines and ideas and strategies for implementing each one. Radical romance. Now, our definition of romance is to energetically, creatively, and continuously express your love and woo your partner. Now, this is what we do when we first get together, right? When we are dating and we first meet and the excitement is high and the chemicals are going, we romance each other. And we energetically and creatively express our love and woo our partner. And then we get married and it all goes away. And for a radical marriage, we will experience radical romance. We will continue to energetically, creatively, continuously express our love and woo our partner. And that's what keeps passion alive in a relationship. The thing is that you might love your partner, but love is a feeling, you know. It's an involuntary emotion. It's part of your experience. It just happens. Where romance is an action. It's a conscious choice. It's something you do. And so if you want to have a radical marriage, you show up in your relationship and you woo your partner. You romance them. And you do that for each other. If you don't, relationships fall into routines. And a lot of marriages, they're just two people that are quite comfortable with each other. And they have, you know, everything they do and every day is a habit. And they don't really think about it. And they're on automatic pilot. And really, your relationship needs to be nurtured to keep passion alive. Habit is the enemy of passion. You can't experience passion if you are just on automatic pilot. And so that's what radical romance is about. It's about introducing passion consciously and intentionally through romancing your partner. So how do you do that? One idea is to, in fact, we recommend that you launch your radical marriage this way, is to have a radical marriage retreat, is to go off someplace with the Radical Marriage book and have a retreat and work on your relationship and identify, you know, what kind of marriage you want. What will make you ecstatically, radically happy beyond your wildest dreams, and make plans for exactly how you're going to create that together. It's a lot of fun, and that's very romantic. And secondly, another idea for radical romance is what we call one-way dates, radical romance one-way dates. And so I want to share with you exactly what that looks like. Now, a one-way date is the opposite of what usually happens. What usually happens is that as a couple, you will make a joint decision about what to do. Okay, you want to go out to eat? Okay, where you want to go? I don't know, where you want to go. Well, how about this? Well, how about that? Okay, well, let's do that. How about, okay, let's go to a movie after dinner. What movie do you want to see? Well, I don't know. What movie do you want to see? Well, how about this? How about that? Okay, what about this? So that's the way a lot of the conversations go. And a one-way date is the opposite of that. And here's what it looks like. A type 1 date is where you create a romantic experience for your partner. So rather than asking your partner where they want to go to eat or what movie they want, you are going to create a romantic experience for them that is just totally to please them. You have their happiness and their pleasure totally 100% in mind. It is not about you at all. This is all for them. You're going to create a romantic experience for them. Secondly, the type 2 date is where your partner does that for you. Your partner creates a romantic experience for you. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't you like your partner to just, take an evening and just design this evening totally to make you happy? And the type 3 date is where you create a romantic experience for yourself. It's like, okay, we have this evening coming up, and I'm going to create the romantic experience I want with you. It's going to be 100% what I want, the way I want it. And isn't it cool to do that every now and then, to have your way? Wouldn't it be fun to have your way every now and then? So, you can look forward to type 3 dates. And then type 4 dates are your partner creates a romantic experience for their self. And so they are creating the experience, the perfect experience that they want to have, and you are totally supporting them to have it. And so those are the 4 types of one-way dates. And if you want to experience radical romance in your relationship, this is one strategy for doing that. It's get your calendar out and actually plan out, like, a couple of months or even a year in advance, your date nights. And this could be just an evening, it could be a weekend, it can be as little or as much as you want. It doesn't have to cost anything. And, have fun. Because with having a one-way date, you really get to express your energy fully rather than everything being a compromise. And there's the thing about radical marriage is there is very little compromise involved in radical marriage. Very, very little. Compromise is a last resort, because compromise is some diluted version that would somehow meet in the middle between you two. To be radically happy, you are going to have the experience that you really want, 100%. And you're both going to have that, 100%. And so shoot for that. It's possible. There are always ways to do that. So don't always compromise. Compromise is the fallback for a lot of couples. They do it way too much. And in radical marriage, we recommend compromise is going to be necessary every now and then. Use it as a last resort, not as a first resort. Okay, let's talk about radical sex. Maybe this is the section you're waiting for. Radical sex. First, some facts. Here's some very, very interesting facts about sex, especially around marriage. Married couples have more and better sex. It's just a research fact, and I think it's pretty cool. How about this one? Research shows that sex gets better with age. Now, you might think that as people get older, they have less sex, and it's less about sex for them. It's less fulfilling to them. But no, sex actually gets better with age. It does decrease in frequency, and it does change, but many people report that it gets better with age. So you don't have to look forward to less of a sex life. You can actually look forward to having a juicy, radical sex life. How about this one? Desire and arousal are not correlated. This is an important one for a lot of reasons. Now, what this means is that you can become aroused and have a fulfilling sexual experience and experience a mind-blowing orgasm and not even be in the mood. You can start out with having no desire. And so, especially women, women are aroused through connection and, emotional connection and foreplay and, all that good stuff. Men tend to be, aroused and experience desire more spontaneously. There's that good old testosterone. But desire and arousal, research shows, are not correlated, that you can start out with no desire at all and decide consciously to go for it and have an amazing arousal and sexual experience. So if that's true, it means that you can have a radical sex life, and your sex life doesn't depend upon two people having all the stars lined up perfectly, and you're both in the mood and you're both wanting it at the same time, that you can consciously and intentionally decide to have a fulfilling sex life. It's not dependent upon your mood. Having sex increases interest in sex. This is an interesting research finding, and it makes a lot of sense that, use it or lose it, right? If you are not having sex, the less often you have sex, you tend to lose interest in sex even more. And it works the opposite. The more you have sex, the more interest you have in sex. And it's actually, healthier, because sex has lots of health benefits. How about this? Desired frequency leads to higher satisfaction. So people report that they are more satisfied with their sex life when they're having sex as often as they want to have sex. Now that sounds completely logical. Well, of course. But how often, does it not happen? It's the norm. There's very few people that are walking around saying, yeah, I have sex exactly as often as I want to. So frequency and satisfaction are highly correlated. That when you are having sex as often as you would like, you experience your sex life to be highly satisfactory. So that's important. So rather than being dependent on mood and letting things get in the way of your sex life, it seems to me, for radical sex, that we would find ways to have sex and overcome the moods and overcome the obstacles, because there's so much of a big payoff for that. And what is that payoff? Sex lowers stress and blood pressure. Sounds pretty healthy. Sex boosts the immune system and burns calories. Pretty healthy. Sex promotes emotional closeness. Yes. Sex promotes better sleep. Cool. And sex feels good. And feeling good just releases all those great hormones and chemicals and promotes better sleep and promotes emotional closeness, and as well as boosts your immune system and lower stress. Lots of great benefits for sex. And when you are married, you have a built-in sexual partner. And when you have a radical marriage, you are a strong team, especially around sex. And radical romance and radical intimacy and radical communication, the payoff for all of that is radical sex. So, how can you have a radical sex life? We have no less than 14 strategies. We have 7 strategies in the Radical Marriage book for what we call good sex. This is just regular good sex, just to have a good sex life. And then we have 7 strategies for radical sex. So here's a sample. Strategy number 3 for having a good sex life is to prioritize your partner's fulfillment. And remember, in a radical marriage, we're talking about prioritizing your partner's happiness. And the way this translates into radical sex is to prioritize your partner's fulfillment, your partner's sexual fulfillment. And so rather than having it be about me, and my orgasm or my arousal and how I feel, that you focus on your partner's fulfillment. And guess what? You're in a radical marriage. You experience a radical sex life. They are prioritizing your fulfillment. You know, isn't that cool when you have a partner that's there for you and is prioritizing your fulfillment? And when you do that for them, you are a strong team. You will experience radical sex. And so we have many strategies for helping you do that. Strategy number 4 in our of 7 of our strategies for good sex is take responsibility for your fulfillment. At the same time that we need to prioritize our partner's fulfillment, we do need to take responsibility for our own fulfillment. And that means we're going to ask for what we want. We're going to tell the truth about what works for us or what doesn't work for us. We're going to allow ourselves to have desires, and fantasies and wants and needs, and to talk about it and make requests about it. We're going to take responsibility for our fulfillment. Yes, our partner's going to prioritize our fulfillment, but it doesn't mean that they're going to read our mind. It doesn't mean that they're able to do so perfectly. So it works best when we are taking responsibility for our fulfillment as well. And how about this one? This is one of my favorite ones. Strategy number 5 for good sex is to structure sex into your routine. This is what we call appointment sex. You structure sex into your routine, meaning that you know when it's going to happen. It's like you have an appointment. And when you know when you're going to have sex, then you're able to plan for it, you're able to anticipate it, you're able to prepare for it. If you wait until you're in the mood, if all sex is spontaneous, a lot of people value spontaneous sex. I want to be in the mood. I want it to be exciting. Well, yeah. However, balance that out with appointment sex. And appointment sex is as exciting, if not more exciting, because let's say, you guys have a standing sex date on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And, here it is on Tuesday, and you know that, on Wednesday you're going to take a bath together, and then you're going to go to bed, and you're going to have sex, and you're going to plan for it, you're going to anticipate, you're going to, I'm going to have fantasies about what we're going to do, and that's exciting. That's like foreplay. So strategy number 5 is structure sex into your routine. It becomes a radical sex life, and you're having much more sex, and sex is much more fulfilling when you're having it regularly and you're planning for it and you're both on the same page about it. And all the stress and are we going to have sex, or are we not going to have sex, are we going to be in the mood or not be in the mood, all that is gone. So 7 strategies for radical sex. Here's a couple of them. Strategy number 3, share and explore all your fantasies and desires. So we are sexual beings. We have sexual thoughts and sexual feelings and desires and wants and fantasies. And when we allow our energy to freely express itself, and we talk to our partner about it, and we experiment and we try things out, or we allow ourselves and we allow our partner to have fantasies and desires, our sex life becomes exciting. To the extent that we suppress all this stuff, that we repress it because we're ashamed of it or we're embarrassed about it, or we don't feel good about it, is the extent that our energy is locked up in a cage. So strategy number 3 is about unlocking that cage and letting that energy freely express itself by sharing and exploring all your fantasies and desires with your partner. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to do everything. You might have fantasies that are physically impossible or are illegal. Doesn't mean you can actually do everything, but it is part of radical intimacy that you would share everything, including, your sexual fantasies and desires. Strategy number 4 of our 7 strategies for radical sex is daily sex. So you remember under strategy number 5 for good sex, we recommend structuring sex into your routine. Well, how about doing that daily? Now, there's a lot of folks that, they don't want to have sex daily, or they figure it's impossible to have sex daily. Well, there's a lot of radical sex strategies that would allow for having sex daily. And, some of my favorites include, like, private touching. Private touching is a strategy where you are touching your partner's touching you, you are exploring each other's bodies. This could be on the couch watching TV, it could be in the car, it can be, in bed while you're going to sleep. It is actually not sexual, It is very, very private. It can be sexual, but it's just between the two of you, and it doesn't necessarily lead to intercourse or go beyond that. And so that is one of the strategies of radical sex is private touching. It's fun, it's exciting, it's fulfilling all by itself. It doesn't necessarily lead to intercourse. It does qualify as sex, most definitely. That's one way to have daily sex. Another way to have daily sex happens to be strategy number 5, expand beyond traditional intercourse. If you think of sex as intercourse all the time, well, that becomes hard to do every day. And you don't even necessarily want to do it every day. But if you expand your sexual repertoire beyond traditional intercourse, then how can you experience each other sexually, physically, in an intimate physical way beyond traditional intercourse? There are lots of fun and fulfilling ways to do that, radical sexual ways. And so this becomes an exciting adventure when you explore this together. And if you set the bar high and say, yeah, we want to have daily sex, how are we going to do that? Open your mind, explore strategies for doing that. We provide you many strategies in this book. And it's amazing. It absolutely is possible, and it becomes very, very fun and fulfilling. So, final topic of our program today, and the final chapter in the Radical Marriage book is radical living. Radical living is about living your best, most fulfilling life together. And as we mentioned before, you cannot be happy and successful and fulfilled living within your comfort level. Just won't happen. Your vision is what you want your life to look like. It's what you're aware of. And you must first be able to see it in order to get it. But then remember, there are those wonderful things that you can't even see that evolve and get uncovered over time. But it starts with what you can see, because in order to get over that hump, in order to get to beyond happily ever after, you have to first get to happily ever after, and that's what you can see. You need to be able to handle your fear, to not let fear hold you back. And there's a wonderful model for this, and we call it yes, yes, hell, no. And this is from a friend of ours, and his name is Brian Wetton, and he wrote a book, and the book is called Yes, Yes, Hell, No. And what Brian means by that is that you have your mind, your cognition, your intelligence, your logic that, evaluates information and makes a decision objectively, and then you have your intuition, your inner voice, this inner part of you that, is wise and speaks to you and tells you, yeah, that's a good decision, or no, that's not a good decision. It guides you. It's a little bit out of your awareness sometimes, but it's there all the time. And your intuition speaks to you. Sometimes it speaks to you by something, feeling good or feeling right. Sometimes you can explain it, sometimes you can't. And then there's the third part, which is your emotions, especially fear. And fear, when fear comes up, it tends to override your intuition. It tends to override your logic. And it tends to stop you and not do it because you're afraid. So Brian's model is, well, if your head is saying yes, this is a good idea. Yes, everything lines up. Yes, the risks are manageable, or, there's no risk here, or, this is a good decision. And if your intuition wants to do it, yes, I want to do this. Yes, this resonates for me. But then your fear comes up and says, hell no! Well, if your cognition, if your mind and your intuition line up and say yes, yes, then go ahead and do it anyway. Don't let the hell no hold you back. Chances are, if you intellectually, have weighed it all out objectively and think it's a good decision and it resonates with you and you really want to do it and you're still afraid, do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So I love that model for handling fear. Yes, yes, hell no. Makes a lot of sense to me. That's why I wanted to share it with you. And then there's what we call the platinum rule. For radical living, especially in a radical marriage, radical relationship, the platinum rule says, do unto others as they want to be done to. And this is about prioritizing your partner's happiness. This is about supporting them to have the life that they really want, that will make them happy. When you practice the platinum rule, your relationships, become so much more successful and fulfilling. And it's a bit different from the golden rule. The golden rule, everybody knows it. Do unto others as they want to be, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The limitation of that is it's self-centered. It's like, okay, if I'm going to give you a gift, I'm going to give you the gift that I would want to receive. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? There's limits to that. It doesn't work very well in gift giving. Because if you're going to be happy with the gift, it's going to be something that you really want, something that you really want to receive. So that's one of the best illustrations that I know of between the platinum rule and the golden rule. The golden rule is great. Don't walk down the street and do unto anybody else that you wouldn't want to have them do unto you. It works great for civilization and for getting along. But we need to go beyond that and practice the platinum rule with each other, and that makes for a radical marriage. And here's one of our favorite sayings, our favorite ways of looking at this. It doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is where you're going and how you'll get there. I mean, in my case, child of divorce, very unhappy home, never ever thought, relationship success would ever happen to me. Married and divorced twice, trying to get it right, trying to make it work, failing miserably. Third time's the charm. Many times I wanted to give up. It doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is where you're going and how you'll get there. It can happen for you. Don't tell yourself that it can't. You're never too old. It's never too late. You're not too overweight. You're not too unattractive. You're not too poor. It doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is where you're going and how you'll get there. So, some strategies for doing that. First, dream and allow yourself to have the dream, what you can conceive and believe you can achieve. Strategy number 2, stay in the question. A lot of the times we want the answer, and if we can't see how we can do it, we give up on it. Well, what matters is what you want, and what matters is that there's many ways to get what you want. And if you can't figure it out now, if you don't see it right now, don't worry about it. Stay in the question. How can I have a radical marriage? Or if I'm single, how can I find the love of my life so that I can have a radical marriage? How can I get out of debt? How can I finish school and work full time? Stay in the question. How can I do this? Don't worry if you can't figure out the answer right away. There is an answer. Have faith and believe that. Strategy number 3, get support. Don't do it alone. I just see, as a coach, this is my job. This is my role and my calling in life. I want to support you to get what you want in your life. And why would you not want to get that support? If you can't do it alone, you can't do it yourself, then get support. Here's one way to look at it, which is you can accomplish anything with enough support. You can get to the moon with enough support. You can build a tall building with enough support. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish with enough support. Can you do it by yourself? No. So it's very clear. So why do most people do that? I don't know. I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. Why be stuck if you don't have to? So get the support you need. It's as simple as asking. It's as simple as reaching out. You can accomplish anything with enough support. That's how to live radically and have a radical marriage, is to get the support you need for doing that. Strategy number 4 is keep moving forward. 1 one foot after another, incremental, small, baby steps. That's just fine. Keep moving forward. Don't allow yourself to be stuck. Now, it's okay to rest. It's okay to relax. It's okay to sleep. But keep moving forward. Don't allow inertia, complacency, fear, distraction, overwhelm to hold you back. Keep moving forward. If you're having trouble moving forward, then get the support you need to do that. Strategy number 5, and probably the most important, is believe. Believe that it's possible. Believe that you deserve it. Believe that you can accomplish it, that it can happen for you. Believe, because remember, all the way back to when we started, where you can conceive and believe you can achieve. I truly, truly believe that. If you don't believe it's possible, it is not going to happen. So this is probably the big obstacle for a lot of people. They hold themselves back. They stay stuck because they don't believe it's possible. So Darlene and I invite you to join the Radical Marriage Movement. We really want Radical Marriage to be not just a book, not just a coaching program, not just a way that you can have the most wonderful marriage possible, but to be a movement that raises the bar for marriage and committed relationships. Because the divorce rate is unacceptable. People thinking that marriage is obsolete is just a reflection that marriage needs to evolve to the next level. We really do see radical marriage as the next evolution for marriage. So we want to see this as a movement, so that marriage in 10 years becomes something that everybody aspires to, because it is the path to living your greatest life, to living a life of adventure and excitement with, a committed teammate. But it's one thing to know what to do, it's another thing to actually do it. This is important. Like, you can read a book, you can read an article, you can know what the strategies are, you can know what to do. It's another to actually do it. So please, 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 if this resonates for you, if you want to accomplish this, if this is the kind of marriage and life you want, then get into action and do it. Do something about it. This book and this webinar, this program that you're involved in right now, will absolutely not change your life. Won't make any difference for you at all. What you do with this information will change your life. We've given you concrete strategies, things that you can do today to get started on a path to a radical marriage. There's many, many, many more in the book. So put this information into action, and that will change your life. That is the path to success and happiness and fulfillment. So what can you do? Get the book. Go to Amazon, go to radicalmarriage.com, go to relationshipcoachinginstitute.com. Get the book, for sure. Start or join a Radical Marriage Circle. Radical Marriage Circles is a group of couples who are supporting each other to have a radical marriage. And this is getting the support you need. Being isolated, doing it alone, is a recipe for failure. And in the Radical Marriage book, we have specific guidelines for exactly how to form and run a Radical Marriage Circle. We highly, highly, highly recommend that. And get a Radical Marriage coach. And here at Relationship Coaching Institute, all of our coaches in our couples training program are now being trained in radical marriage. And so if you need support in developing a radical marriage with your partner, or you're experiencing obstacles to radical marriage, then don't be stuck. Don't tell yourself it's not going to happen. Don't feel helpless because you can't change your partner. It's true, you can't change your partner, but you can get the support that you need, and a radical marriage coach is a great place to start. And join us at radicalmarriage.com. We have a free membership for you. We have lots of resources and support for you. We really want to promote the radical marriage movement. We want to support you to have a radical marriage. So go to radicalmarriage.com and register to join us. Be part of radical marriage. Join the radical marriage movement. And that is everything that we have for you today. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for sharing the radical marriage space with us and allowing us to share what radical marriage means to us and how to have a radical marriage. I really, really do hope that you will join us in the radical marriage movement. Please do get the Radical Marriage book and check it out. And thanks for joining us. And we will talk to you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.